Hello everyone and welcome to the San Francisco Independent Short Film Festival. I'm Frankie Stewart from Festival Formula, and today we're going to be speaking to some of the filmmakers featured in Conflict Block 3. Okay guys, thanks for joining us. I do just have a quick icebreaker question, which I'd just like to ask, not really about your film particularly, but just a quick icebreaker question. So Theo, starting with yourself, using one word, how would you like an audience to feel after watching your film?
That's a tough one.
Yeah,
Only one word. I would go with romantic.
very nice, very nice. How about you, Nicole?
Oh, I was listening to Theo. I didn't get a chance to think. I think a feeling. I think that I would want people to feel curious. I would want them to feel like they wanted to discuss more about what was in the film.
I really like that one. We haven't had that one yet. I really like that. Yeah, I wanted to know more. Arkadiy and Mickey, how about yourselves?
Maybe kicked in the face.
I see what you did there.
I would add enlightened.
Yes, very nice, very nice. Dan and Julie,
For me, it would be surprised.
nice.
I was gonna say that, but let's do gratified. I like.
Yeah. That works. Yeah. Nice. Usually the others are a lot more dark than this, so I'm glad some of them are a little bit more nicer. Claire, how about yourself?
All right, mine's aroused. What's yours?
Catharsis.
Nice. Okay. Wow. Okay. Really sort of different answers there. I like that. That's really cool. Cool. Okay, guys. So let's get into the film, shall we? So Nicole, starting with you, seeing as yours is the first in the block, with Joe and the Shawl. I have to say I really enjoyed the film. I think it's a nice way to start the block because it really eases into it. You think it's just a friendly sort of, oh, look at this guy flirting with his girl. And then you see that sort of contrast of how people that they both need something, but actually after a while they can't really wait to get away from each other. And I like how it sort of highlights the hypocrisy of, well, hang on, 2 minutes ago you was flirting with this lady, and now just because you've realised her religious beliefs, you don't want anything to do with her. So I really liked it. I have to ask, I think on Vimeo it says it's based on a real encounter. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah, it's based on Deanna Kelly Sayed's true story of a blog, and she's a North Carolinian writer, and she wrote this story. And she was, kind of a hidden Muslim, a white Muslim woman who wasn't wearing the hijab, and had a hilarious story about her tow truck driver battery changing experience. And it was a lot more jovial and a little less,
Oh, really?
in your face, xenophobic. But obviously with film, we have to create conflict in order to move the film forward, and in order to create discussion about themes that you want to talk about, and structure. So yeah, it was based on a true story, but it was a lot lighter than the film. Because overall Muslims don't really end conversations with threats in the US. so yeah, that's kind of the genesis of the film.
Yeah, I mean that part I really did like. We'll come back to that. So I do think it's funny that you say that, because I think the film, I believed that it was going to just be very jovial, but I think just very quickly the guy gets quite serious and quite defensive very quickly. So you mentioned there about the audience. Has that message that you wanted to convey, do you think it has been conveyed?
It hasn't played as extensively yet. I mean, it's been in a few film festivals. It's hard to we're not talking to audiences, so it's difficult to get that feedback. I am getting some response from it, most from, I think, the Muslim community, the Muslim American community, who's like, yeah, you hit on a lot of subjects that we deal with on a regular basis. But in terms of the discussion, a lot of people say it's very pertinent because it has to do with, white nationalism, Christian nationalism, and, Muslim identity in the US. And I would say the character at the beginning when I wrote it seemed a lot more extreme than what it is right now. Because now, the extremists, the people who are, somewhat Nazi in nature really coming out of the woodwork, and it's not shocking to see this type of character anymore, so.
No, it's very true. I think, yeah, with the current Trump era, it's not as shocking as you say.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I have to ask, the last line, 666 Papa Smurf, was that always in the script, or did that?
No.
No.
No, I wrote that. People want me to make T-shirts with that line. Yeah, it's just kind of bringing it back to the jovial discussion that they had right before it went sour, right? So
Yeah, definitely.
yeah. No, I didn't get that angry in real life, so I wrote that.
Okay. Yeah, I thought it was really cool. I think the way she delivers it as well, it is almost as if it's just come to her, and she sort of makes that like click noise afterwards. That's really great.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Okay. So moving on to Muscle Tov Cocktail, again, which I think is a film that's brilliantly well made. I really like the way that you guys have the story embedded with the narration to the camera. That's something I find is really quite fun, especially when you have a serious subject. I think it allows you to make things fun without insulting the purpose of the film. And also the overlay of the stats, it's like, and the facts. I haven't really seen that before. That was really cool. So I have to ask, I guess, where does this inspiration for this style come from?
Good question.
Tell it? Or?
Yeah, maybe there was no visual inspiration, but I think it all comes from the fact that when we started this project, when we started writing it, it was all about, like, we had all the statistics and all the monologues we want to tell to the audience, like from a Jewish subjective perspective. And we had this like different snippets of like documentary material and YouTube snippets. And then we thought of a way, how can we mix all this up? Like before that, we did many shorts, but all of them were very classy narrative. So we kind of started to look for a way how to bring all of it together.
Fair enough. Okay. So you wouldn't say that there's any particular work or directors or other films that have inspired this style? Any references you can give?
Maybe we rewatched some movies of Edgar Wright, I think, and of Guy Ritchie. This was like
yes.
Yeah. And also there's what's he called? Adam McKay, the guy who is also working, like, he did these films where he, The Big Short, and is it Adam McKay? No.
Yes.
Yeah, it is. He's also using like found footage sometimes and integrating it in the fiction part. So,
yeah. I think the Guy Ritchie reference is really cool. I think that I think probably that's why I enjoyed it so much. So yeah, well done, guys. How did the main actor sort of deal with that narration? Is that something that you found challenging, or did he pick it up, and the way he just has to switch between scene and talking to the camera?
Yeah, it's difficult for an actor. It's difficult because you're kind of in your mise en scene, and then in the next moment you have to turn around and speak to the audience, to the camera, and there's no one to speak to. Yeah, there's just the camera. So we kind of found ways to tell him, like, who is he actually speaking to? Is it a good friend, or is it like a group of people, like his friends he's referring to, or is it someone older, someone younger? So he could imagine someone like who the camera stands for. But there was a lot of like, the film is very very planned and very like bordered. Yeah. So it was a lot of rehearsal before we shot, like, that he had every movement and every sentence, he knew where to turn, where to look at.
Oh, really? It was
and
that.
who to speak to. Yeah.
We had
Very well prepared.
Alexander Wertmann, the main actor. He came 3 weeks before the shooting. He came to us, to our city, Ludwigsburg, and we did a very long rehearsal. And we really tried to test every single shot in the film with our cameraman. So we were sure it would funktionieren.
Yeah.
It would work, yeah.
Wow. Okay. So you really had to be that meticulous. I think that makes sense in the terms of it was executed brilliantly. So that does make sense. But I think, yeah, it shows props to the actor, because that sounds pretty.
He's a great guy. It was his first film. Like, he did only theater till that
Wow.
day. And he was really, like, we on stage when we speak about it, and we tell openly that he did a really bad performance in casting, because like he was speaking like the script, like reading Shakespeare on stage.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
But we kind of saw something like, first of all, he's Jewish, and was like really like he refers to the audience from a Jewish perspective, and it's really hard to find a Jewish actor in this age in Germany. I mean, it's not a problem in the States, but like in Germany, you have so few Jews, you know. And he was interpreting the whole script like really, really well, and he's a sympathetic guy, and that's kind of why we thought like he will make it, and he made it. Yeah.
That's a very nice touch, actually. I think he has a very good face as well. I think it sounds a bit strange, but he has a very strong face. I think that yeah, he's definitely a great actor. I also have to ask, on the Vimeo description, I think you have a really fun way of describing the sort of the cocktail elements by, 50 mil of anti-Semitism or whatever it is. Is that been what you've submitted to festivals as like the synopsis or the log line, or is that just something you've done for fun on Vimeo?
That's what we do for festivals. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it works fine so far. Like,
yeah, no, I love it. I think it's really original. And
very often, like, I'm reading synopsis where you like or a log line after the first sentence, you kind of know what kind of film this will be, and you kind of not really surprised, or you're not really like attached to it.
For
That's
sure,
what we thought we'll do something like, you don't know what's in there in this cocktail, or you kind of know what's in there, but you don't really know.
No, for sure. And I think, like you said, getting the log lines right, it's a hard thing to do. It's a very difficult balance between giving away the whole plot and just interesting people.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So Daniel and Julie, moving on to the garage or the garage. You have to excuse my
It sounds better when you
Yeah,
say
it
it.
sounds
Actually, we're
much
on
more
board.
prestigious.
Yes.
That's funny. I was definitely affected by this film. I mean, I think the way you build suspense in sort of such a closed-off environment, considering there's only, I think, was it 3 characters as well? Maybe 4, 3?
Four.
Yeah. Towards the end, I was really worrying what Buzz was going to do. Like, and I didn't think I would be. It's a short film. I was like, and it's quite stylized as well. But I was like, oh my God, what's going to happen here? But just to go back a little bit, I have to ask, my first question is the old appliances line that you start with. Where did that come from? Did the film stem from that line, or did you work that line into the film after you had the story?
Well, it was originally written by a friend of ours who he's an older gentleman, and he had always he'd written short stories and won some awards for them. And when he was younger, he wanted to be a filmmaker, and kind of went off and had a family and did other things. And then he always wanted to make a movie. And so this was kind of his like bucket list thing to do. And he came to us and was just like, I have, I have this money and I want to make this movie and I don't know how to make it. And people seem to like the story. And he was and we talked a lot about, the inspiration of things, very Stephen King short stories, and like very tonal kind of things like Shawshank and like The Green Mile, and, and especially Stand By Me was a very big influence, just the tone of something like that, and creating that in a short story environment. And to go back to your question about that, I mean, he was very adamant about, and I agree, I thought it was a very interesting thing, and of this refrigerator and how we go from the refrigerator as an entity and a character. And then when we started working on it and I started really getting into the story, like it developed that sound the refrigerator, and hopefully it came across as a character, just because we wanted to keep it like kind of grinding and like almost an animalistic, you know, kind of sound to it all the way throughout. But he was very adamant about the hot point, and
Yes.
she
Very,
has a
very
great-
adamant about the hot point, which is hard because of clearance. But the other thing is we had basically a week of pre-production, and we
Wow.
were shooting in another state entirely during a holiday weekend. So I had to comb the entire United States Craigslist after trying to rent a hot point, because no other thing except for a hot point would work.
Wow.
Apparently. So I found one in Alabama, and we were shooting in Tennessee. So I had to randomly find some people in Alabama, and we're in California. So I had to find some people in Alabama that would go pick up that refrigerator and deliver it to Tennessee within like a couple of days on a holiday weekend, on 4th of July weekend. And it was the start. And I looked at Dan and I was like, well, if this is how it's going to go, I guess this is how it's going to go. But it was incredible that we were lucky enough to find that. Some woman was just selling her old refrigerator and on Craigslist, and I saw it, and it was a hot point, and we had to get it down there. So. And
the cool thing about it was that it kind of developed the handle kind of when we were put it in the garage and put it in the space, and we were like, oh, how are we going to open this thing?
Because it had no handle.
Yeah, it had no handle when we got it. And so like Buzz, the actor, was just like, was looking around, and he found this like old half of a steering wheel. He's like, oh, this would be great. Let's put this on there. So we put it on.
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
when we wrapped production, the owner of the garage was like, what are y'all going to do with that? And we were like, I don't know. You want it? He's like, yeah, I love it. We're like, okay.
Solved
great.
a lot of our wrap problems. Yeah, we didn't have to get rid of the refrigerator. It was awesome. So.
That's amazing. So not only in the story does the refrigerator play sort of the, you know, how it's becomes its own character, sort of when you have that insight to the actual production, it was its own sort of task in a way. So that's that's really amazing. Yeah. So is this?
Go ahead, sir.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, just a final thought. It kind of shows you, you know, if there's something that is very specific to a story, it's worth fighting for, and it really, and he was really right, and I really loved it, and it became more than once we put it in, you know, with the sound and everything. So it really turned out.
Yeah, no, definitely, I agree. I think it's lovely to hear you put it that way as well. I think the audience will be, yeah, it's exciting to hear. Is this sort of film, this sort of tone, as you mentioned, some of the references at the top of the question, is this something that you want to do more of, or?
Yes. I mean, I find myself always drawn to like Southern tales and creating that environment. I grew up in the Midwest. I grew up in Kansas, but I lived a long time. I did a film in Texas and Tennessee, and I just love the South, and I love the environment. I love the sounds. I mean, like a big thing for this was the crickets and just the environment. Yeah, and the tree frogs and locusts and just all those kind of things to help create the environment. And it's just a specific tone. If you've ever been there for any amount of time, you can really kind of create that, and people will identify with that. And that's what I like about it, you know. And they're nice tales, and they're good places to set things because they have such high production value, and it's very Americana in a way. And so it's kind of creating that.
Yeah, no, it's definitely slightly magical, and I do think it's sort of like you do transport the audience to that place.
Thank you.
It's quite refreshing being in lockdown.
Right.
Well, I mean, this was kind of our first situation where we didn't write the script, and we didn't really come up with the concept. So we had to be really faithful to what our writer Chris's idea was, because it was very important to him that we really got across certain things in there that we might not have thought were important, but to him they were important. So we had to learn how to kind of work with that and not try and impose all of our vision on it, but to keep his original vision. So it was kind of a test for us in some ways to, you know, although we work a lot in TV, so you're always having a network's opinion on it, but it's different when it's someone else's story and concept, and trying to be true to that at the same time as making sure your own artistic vision is in there.
For sure, yeah, you have to be a little bit more thoughtful, I guess, yeah, whereas the network is just sort of telling you what to do, I guess. Cool. Okay, Theo, moving on to you with Wholeheartedly. Again, I think, which is a film similarly to The Garage, where you do a great job of building sympathy for the main character in a short period of time. I particularly like the beginning and the end shot with the mirror. I think that's very clever, not only because obviously it makes it that sort of full circle, but I like the sort of inspirational sense of you never know, you know, you don't know everyone's past, you don't know what they've been through, you don't know people's stories, and how quickly things can change. So I guess my question to you is that the message you was trying to convey with this film, or was there a different message? Or
regarding the mirror scene?
Yeah, the mirror scene.
I would say yes. I always like the idea of having some sort of past, present, future connection. And my goal there was like trying to have these two different characters with two different personalities at that point in time communicate with each other. So past and future touch somewhere in the middle, and the future Carmen, the protagonist of Wholeheartedly, is kind of an inspiration for the Carmen in the past that still has to go through all the hard stuff, basically. And also the other way around, when the future self watches the past, she kind of goes through this catharsis or something where she, you know, remembers the struggle. So that's where kind of I wanted to break time and space. And thanks to my DP, Guadalupe Hernandez Pineda, we made this shot. It was, you know, we had to spend some time on how to shoot this, because, you know, it could have been very difficult to make.
For sure, as well, I guess when you're in the editing suite, you have some decisions to make there as well, how you make that work. Is that what audiences have picked up on the most, that scene, or is there another sort of theme that they enjoy?
In general, the audiences, there are many. Some people really like the immigration topic the most, and a lot of people said that I managed to describe that very well. First of all, because of course I'm an Italian in the US, so I had to see a little bit, and for sure I would say to me the main theme is her story, is her life, is her struggle, the way that she becomes strong and aware of her own strength. So it is, for me, like my personal connection with this character is trying to be determined in make your future better.
Definitely. No, I really like the way you put that. And I think there is a point in the film, I think, when her mum calls her and she's in the car, for me especially, I was worried. I was thinking, oh God, is she just going to have to accept that this is her life? Sort of this really claustrophobic theme of there is no way out. Although he's doing this to you, he's all you have. You're married. You've made this commitment. Go home. And I was like, oh, that's going to be really terrible if she ends up just going back to him, and then, you know, that's how the film ends. And I think you could have gone down that way, because I'm sure there are real stories where that does happen, but I'm glad that you do end it on that high note of actually no. And again, the mirror scene gives reference to that, because you see it at the start. So you're like, no, it was never going to be that way.
Yeah, I would say there is a gray line there. It is true that she goes back, and maybe she has to compromise for some time. I mean, in the development of the story, that's how I felt about the story. Like, she has to accept her situation for a while, but in mind, she will have the goal, the final goal. So try to go through this hard times, not supported by her family, with overwhelmed with everything that is a world that is not really accepting you, and with a lot of struggles, trying to make your life, your future.
Yeah, for sure. No, perfectly put. Okay, cool. So Claire and Sophia are moving on to This Is How I Lost My Virginity now, which is obviously the last film in the block, which is incredibly powerful. I mean, it ends, that's like some serious feelings. I was completely overwhelmed. I couldn't really even begin to imagine how.
Really?
Yeah, for sure. I couldn't begin to imagine how, you know, victims actually feel. So I guess the question I have to start with is as, because it is such a sensitive topic, is again, what have audiences' responses been to the film like so far, or friends, even family?
We haven't really shown anyone.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You guys would be the first before the crew. If any of you watched it, would have been the first group of people to see it.
Wow.
Yeah. It's I'm like, I'm gonna cry right now. Because of this film, I was able to finally speak to my own family about it. So it's, speaking about my experience is still, as you can see, very new for me. And it's just, we've just done this together, and you know, we're working through it. And I think I'm learning. It's just been such a roller coaster from beginning to end. And I think this is also part of that roller coaster, is learning how to talk about it, learning how to be empowered by it, you know?
We keep changing little things, and we're just, I mean, I'm personally really proud of it. But I don't know, it's just one of those, it is so much of like our baby that we're showing little groups at a time until it's like, I don't know, it's just the right person at the right time gets to see it, I guess. And that's y'all.
For sure. No, I think watching it when you know what it's preset with regards to the real story and yourself, Sophia, I think, yeah, those scenes are just, like I mentioned, overwhelmingly sort of trying to imagine the feelings that you went through, let alone the ones that the audience are feeling, just watching it. So I guess I have to ask as well, has it helped in terms of the coping process? Would you say that filmmaking has?
Definitely. Yeah.
Art, baby.
Which is kind of like all we've been fighting for since, is really like, art helps you speak, you know, where you can't talk about things. Like, I was never able to talk about things or express myself. You know, I actually didn't even know that I was that much of a traumatized person until art, and even until this project came along, and I saw how hurt I was and how damaged I was, and really having to.
Scared.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So scared. Yeah. So scared. And really, like, I really just wanted to leave it there. You know, it's like, I didn't want this person to like win over me anymore.
Oh my God. And his cousins contacted, like, during when we were Sorry. But it's like, it's real shit. It's really fucking.
No, for sure. I can, and I can even now when I'm talking to you guys, I can feel that raw, real energy. It's a very unique film. I guess so my final sort of question to you guys is, how have you found working with each other? Sophia, how have you found working with Claire, and obviously it being your story, but Claire directing?
I mean, I think that's what really even started our like, we're like, we are sisters now. And I just remember the day that I just asked her to direct it, and just like, even where we are now in relationship, like, I have learned so much from her, not just like as an artist. And, you know, we worked on the script together. Like I said, I never talked about it before. So it would be nights of us just like opening up, you know, like, have a glass of wine. We just talk. Like, it would be a lot of like knowing my past, me having to think about it. And I think the biggest part was trying to write it and be forgiving and not judgmental.
And be really, she was, I mean, I don't know how many you've seen it, but she's, I think, really fair to everybody, including, and she was worried about how her mom would feel watching it, because there was a portrayal of her mom in there, and that got dialed down a lot because, well, we're sensitive, you know, and it wasn't necessarily as big a part of the story as her experience. But like, the whole thing, you guys could only imagine like telling your extended family
Sure.
who, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah. I mean, I could let you talk for ages. I realize it's a sensitive subject. I can only salute how brave you've been, Sophia, and I think everyone would agree. I do want to ask now, and it's okay if you haven't watched each other's films, but if you have, I did this on one of the other Q&As and it was quite interesting. Does anyone else have a question for anyone else? It can be literally about anything.
I'll go. How long did it all take y'all how long did this process take you guys?
For us, it was 3 shooting days, but because you know, when you're doing a film that is you're not really getting paid for, you're like doing it for passion, and it takes, you know, we shot it in July of 2019 and took about 6 or 7 months of working nights and weekends and pulling favors and all those kind of things to finish it probably in February this year.
But we skipped a huge chunk of time because we had other stuff that, I mean, when you get paid, you have to do the other stuff.
Yeah.
And, you know, so that's why, I mean, it took as long as it did. I mean, we've done stuff that hasn't taken as long, but yeah, I mean, I think it's also, you keep tweaking it, you know, even when you think you're finished, you keep tweaking it a little bit and a little bit. So like a festival says, you have to send in the final copy, and then you're like, oh, I guess this is it, you know?
Well,
like,
I mean, it's like one of the adages is like, it's the film's never finished, it's just kind of taken away. So it's kind of really how it
That is beautiful. That is beautifully put. I think there's a quote about that as well, I think, where it's sort of like, the director's work is never done, but the editor's is.
That's true.
Yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm. But then what if you are the editor and the director?
That's me too.
that's him.
That's what you get.
You know, at the end of the day, for me at least, it's always just like, it sits in a place where the imperfections are good as good as the perfections, and you let those things play. Like there's things in the garage that I'm just like, oh my God, I can't believe that's still in there. But it's nothing like no one else will notice except me, and it's like, and everybody's okay with it, so you got to be okay with it.
Cool. Okay, guys, just one quick last one. I'm going to do a sweep round just to give you an opportunity to speak a little bit about the future. So, Nicole, starting with yourself, what's next for you? Are you working on anything new, or are you just sort of trying to get through lockdown and stuff like that?
No, I'm writing like crazy. I'm working on 3 rewrites. It's always good to have a deadline for feature scripts. So there's just, you know, pandemic is a good time to pull out the feature scripts and figure out a deadline and just rewrite like crazy. So yeah, I'm working on those 3. I shot teasers for a few of them a while ago, so it's, you know, that gives more incentive or push to get that done.
Wicked. Well, that's very exciting. Arkadish and Mickey, how about you guys?
Yeah, actually we were living in the same flat right now. Arkady is just in the room behind that wall. And I think we moved together in April, and we are writing on our first feature film. So it's just a start, but we will see. Yeah.
Again, very exciting. I can't wait to see. Always when you see short films, obviously you realize it's a calling card. So it's always really exciting when filmmakers say that they are taking that next step. Dan and Julie, how about you guys?
We're always working on stuff. You know, there's definitely some features we're working on, and we're also developing another short. And then I had this crazy idea for doing these fictionalized podcasts, which are basically short stories that are in like a serialized storytelling. And it's something I've never, like, I like the challenge of doing something I've never done before, and being an editor by trade. It's a whole new challenge of just telling an entire story just with audio. And so it's taking an old idea and then turning into something new and different and trying it. It's like, if I fail, I fail, whatever, but I'm going to try it.
No, that's a great attitude to have. And I think podcasts they're really popular at the moment. So yeah, nice. Theo, how about yourself? What does the rest of the year or next year look like?
Yeah, I agree with Nicole. But the pandemic time is perfect for writing.
Yeah.
Actually, in March, I was about to shoot my second short film Living in Color. On my website, by the way, you can find pretty much everything that it's in development at the moment. Yeah, and then I had this short film in collaboration with UCLA, where I'm studying, and then, you know, the zombie apocalypse. And yeah, we're forced to stop. But you know, that's a project that at some point I really want to do, because it's even more personal than this one. And then I have other projects. I have a couple of projects that are more environmental friendly, and that's also another direction that I would like to explore more. Have a pilot for a TV show, and yeah, and a feature film. They're all pretty much with the romance in the center. That's how I like to write. I like interesting and dramatic, emotional love stories, and then I try to explore different genres connect to romance, basically. So like romance drama, maybe like sci-fi romance, horror romance, and so on.
Very nice. I think that it's great that a silver lining of the pandemic is that it's given people a lot of time to write, I guess, if anything else.
And most
totally.
of us not have kids, because, like, I don't know about you, but like during the pandemic, I started to try and write, and then I have to go into the other room and deal with something that's going on there. So kudos to you guys.
Yeah, you have to wait till they fall asleep at like 10 p.m. and you can wake up at 6 in the morning.
And then you're so exhausted that it's, you know, you think you're going to get everything done and write 12 features, but then reality hits. So.
Yeah.
But you do the sacrifice if it's something that you really want to do and you're driven, right?
Of course.
Yes, for sure.
You make time for it. Absolutely.
Definitely. Finally, Sophia and Claire, how about you guys? What does the future hold?
Well, the future holds, in the quarantine, which will end up in the future, the project, I've been doing a bunch, but the project I'm most proud of is living in it's a docuseries where we lived in the occupied zone in Seattle that got taken over. We took over a precinct, a police precinct, and the police left. So for about a month, there was this autonomous zone in the middle of Seattle, and there were no police allowed inside. And we handled that shit ourselves. And it's all through the eyes of this person who's a real life superhero and identifies as that. So who do you need more when the police will not show up? You need a real life superhero. So that's the series that I'm working on now.
Well, I'm intrigued.
Mm-hmm.
She went to jail.
And it's real. That's real.
Went to jail.
Yeah, I went to jail. There's corruption in the Seattle PD. I should not be saying this is recorded, but yeah. What were you doing?
So I'm just making more films. After writing the first one, I really found like a passion for writing. So I've just been like, again, on the roller coaster of creating and finding more like personal shit and shit that I have to get over, and putting that in something and just trying to grow as a person.
We're trying to do more of that, yeah.
Create with her, you know, keep writing stuff.
We create, you know, okay, we're doing it, learning the trades, so. Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think art is the answer. I think I'm not sure what the question is, but I know that art is the answer. And on that note, guys, I just want to say thank you so much for making the films. I thoroughly enjoyed watching the block. They moved me all individually in different ways, but again, thank you so much, because without films, life would be terribly boring. But I'm going to have to say it's been a pleasure speaking to you guys. I wish you have a great festival. I want to thank the audience for watching as well. And of course, we do hope that you check out what else the festival has to offer. But for now, I'm going to love you and leave you. So thank you once again, guys. And
thank you, Frank.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.